Coach Dick Tone chapter 2, whatever you want to call it. But hey, this is his follow-up episode. We probably end up doing a number 3. This is a very good episode. You're gonna enjoy it. But despite all that, I'm here to tell you that you have a fee. Your fee is to share the show. And that's what we're asking you to do with every episode. You listen to an episode and you like it, there's something useful, share the show and help another barebow archer get better. That's what these podcasts are about. And do your part by growing the sport, by sharing every episode that you listen to that you get something from. That's it. All right, here it is. Enjoy. See you on the next one.
I think then anybody I can put a name to promote our sport.
The archer who owns all the world records, John Demmer III.
The more difficult a thing is, the more important the mental game becomes.
I didn't eat any supper yet either. How about you guys? Did you guys eat yet?
I didn't eat
I got some crunch berries.
Oh, yeah.
Grayson Partlow.
It's like me taking 3 or 4 years off your eyes just because I weakened that prescription in the shooting eye.
And don't put everything into my shot that I should, that I get a lot of drop on those heavy arrows. It's dropping all the way down. He said, well, you might want to think about going to a lighter arrow in string walking. And that's what got that started.
Yeah, that fire extinguisher you have up there in the corner.
Yep.
Yeah, I had 2 of those from the old Ben Pearson #1 building.
Really?
And, I don't know what happened to them. I was going to clean them up, and because they're kind of neat, but I don't know what I did with them. So.
Oh well, if you want to ship one of those to Orangeburg, Pennsylvania, I'll pay good money for one just to say it's from the Ben Pearson factory.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
Yeah, I have 2 of them. I collect. I mean, you can see that's actually my fire helmet. From a few years ago when we went to the Tupperware. I eventually went back to my leather fire helmet that has been in like some of my profile pictures and stuff, but that's actually my Tupperware helmet. I call it because it's plastic. It's called the Ben Franklin 2, and you can kind of see a dark spot on it. That's actually burn marks from structure fires and stuff. And the inside of that helmet broke. Like the one they have like a construction hat, and you turn it on the back. They have those in them, and that one broke, which is why it's hanging there. I can't use it. I went back to my leather helmet, which is it's a Cairns is the company. Those things, when I bought my leather, probably back in I'm gonna say 99 maybe. That was like a $350 helmet, right? The leather. The helmet that you see, in most movies and stuff like that. That helmet now goes for almost $1,000, brand new.
Amazing how things.
Oh my gosh, it's crazy. Yeah, it's wild. But anyways, this is probably the most frequently asked. When are you doing part 2? Question that I have had from multiple people. We want Dick Tone back on the podcast because they were so intrigued with the history and the things that we talked about in the first episode. So this is episode 55 with Dick Tone. This is chapter 2 of Dick Tone. We are going to talk about sort of Dick's coaching career, as in like some of the shooters he's worked with and the things that he's learned along the way. And we're going to talk about the natural shot cycle. We're going to talk about how Dick has come. I keep hearing a sound in the background. Somebody that's watching the live feed right now, I think Christian Wilder is. 2 things. One, let me know about the audio, and if you're hearing a clicking sound in the background, I'm not sure.
I don't hear anything.
Okay, maybe it was me, or maybe it was, we're having severe rain and wind right now, so it could even be my internet acting funny. But anyways, continuing on, and we're going to talk about how Dick has kind of come to being basically how he coaches and what he coaches, and why really is what the discussion is. I said it before and I'll say it again. I was honored to meet Dick officially for the first time at a seminar at the Lancaster Archery Supply. Rob Kaufhold invited me, got to come down. Casey spoke a little bit, Justin Hewish spoke a bit, and Jay Bars was there as a co-instructor with Dick. Jay is now also coaching himself. We text frequently because he asks me Barebow questions. And Dick and I text a lot too, and we bounce things off of each other, and I bounce more off of him than not. And since we've started talking, I've started making even some changes in my own shot, to sort of, I don't know how, not to make the natural thing cliche, but to not fight what the bow wants to do. That's the only way I can explain it. So with that being said, Dick, welcome back.
Yep, good to be here.
Let's start with, early on, I guess, with whom you were working with, and the things that you've learned along the way, I guess, is really where we're going to start this tonight.
You mean the people I was coaching early?
Yeah, like early on, some of your most, as you coach people, you develop a skill as a coach, and you develop, then shooters start to develop in front of you. We know, I just mentioned some of them. I want you to go through that process, because there's other shooters that you've coached, a few young people that kind of is which resulted in you end up coaching Casey. Let's talk about that and the success that you have found, and why, and what are the things that you've picked up on that have made them successful.
Okay, well, I guess the coaching philosophy, if you want it, it stems back, and I think I mentioned the three of this before. It stems back from when I was in Canada trying to shoot myself, and there were no coaches, and you learn from watching other shooters, or you get a pointer once in a while. And being a young man, not knowing what's going on in target archery, I just listened to what everybody said, and it got confusing. And I was looking in the Archery World magazine. I found a guy named Dave Kagi, Senior, who wrote articles, and he had a book coming out called Power Archery. And I thought, well, I'll order it. It was $1. I can spend $1, right? This is in the late 50s, early 60s, and I think about 1960 when this came out. And I got the book and I read through it, and it kind of made sense. It wasn't everything that I teach, but it had a lot of things in it that made sense to me as far as the physics of the shot. And I attempted to do what he said, and even though I did it wrong a lot, it was better than anybody else in Canada could do it.
Right.
And consequently, I basically won everything up there for 6 years. And along the line, I would have people ask me, well, what are you doing? And one of them was Joan Galley at the time. Now it became Joan McDonald, who actually coached the Canadians for 30 some years,
Wow.
After I left. All right. And she and I won the 1964 Canadian Nationals. And back then you had a target day, 2 days, and then you had archery, golf, and clout, stuff like that. And then you had 2 days of field. And you had a target champion, a field champion, and an overall champion. And so I won all three. And my total was just right around 400 points higher than the second place.
Wow.
So I figured out I was doing it correct.
I would say so.
And then I moved back to the States then, and met a guy named Al Henderson, who had an archery shop there in Phoenix.
Is your hand sliding over your computer by chance?
Could be, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was part of the hitting the mic or something. Go ahead. You're good. You're good. No worries.
So anyway, Al was a fairly well-known coach at the time, and I wanted to try to make the U.S. archery team. So we hooked up, and I bought another bow and started working with him. And he didn't agree with my philosophies, so we kind of butted heads a lot. Long story short, I made the team, went and shot the world championships and all that kind of stuff. But once I was done with that, and I moved to California and started shooting over there. I went back to what I was doing, and I ended up getting to know the Easton people real well, worked for them. And had lunch with Doug Easton one day and a guy named Chester Say. And I did not know Chester other than the fact that he was a friend of Doug's. And he was kind of a neat guy to talk to. I also didn't know he had written a book. And this book was written in 1930 called Shooting the Longbow, the Relax Method. So I got a copy of it and I looked at it and I says, well, this is just what Dave Keggy teaches. Well, it was an early version. So what Dave had done, and I talked to him about it afterwards, he says, I just kind of took what he had done and made it and added some new things. He added the open stance, a few other things that you see pretty prevalent nowadays. And he started, teaching his son, and his son went down to Jones Beach in 1963, 16-year-old kid, and kicked everybody's butt at the national target, and shooting this method. And everybody says, well, you can't shoot that way because it's this, it's that, and so on and so forth. And he said, well, you just beat everybody, But we had the same discussions like you and I had. Well, no, you have to do this, you have to do that, and so on and so forth. Well, it's not true. You have two things involved in shooting a bow and arrow. You have biomechanics and you have physics, right? And you have to marry the two. If you don't, you're going to have a problem. Everybody says you got to do biomechanics, this and that. Well, the physics are pretty simple. Is that when you pull on the bowstring, the bow puts pressure against you, right? And your body reacts to that.
Right.
So the biomechanics reacts to the physics of the bow, not the other way around. All right. So if you understand that part first, then it's real easy to figure out, this is what should happen, okay, when you shoot an arrow. So over the years, watching top, and I was always watching all the top shooters. When I would go to Cobo Hall to shoot, and the biggest indoor tournament at the time, or the nationals, or whatever I went to, whenever I got done shooting, I'd go and find the best shooter on the line, and I'd sit and watch him, and I know you've probably done the same thing.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. I want to know what they're doing. And, one of the things I found and I just watching them is that they all had a certain rhythm, and they only had a certain timing, right? Those that were struggling were not shooting well.
Yeah.
We talked that all the top shooters did the same thing every time. They had a what do we call a system, or
a process, shot process.
Same process, the same movements, and it's all, you could time it right down to the second. And that, I thought that was really interesting. Not knowing that, later on that would become a focal point, really, when you get to the top target archers. Okay. So anyway, that was, kind of how I started doing all this. And then, I had guys like Steve Lieberman, who actually lives there in Reading. Okay. He was going to ASU, and I was working with him, and he was, several US team members, international or intercollegiate champion several times, one of the top shooters in the country for years. Okay. So, and then I had, at that time, even working for Henderson, I'd have 20 to 25 kids every Saturday, $5 a lesson, and work with them for a half hour, an hour, and go on to the next one, and it was fun. And I had people like Terry Pescio, and I started with her when she was 8. And at age 19, she was the first or the youngest person to ever win the national target, okay, in the senior division. Now, she'd won it in all the other divisions too.
How old was she?
She was 19 at the time.
Okay.
Of course, Casey has eclipsed that many times over, right?
Yeah. That's what I was leading to. Yeah.
And I have pictures of her shooting in Vegas in the 70s, and it's, you know, she's just a little 8-year-old girl, you know. But it was fun to see you do it this way, and I'll get you a Baskin Robbins deal for ice cream.
Yeah.
Okay, and she'd shoot them all in the middle, you know. So, and then her uncle was 10, she was 8, and Marty Swinsky, and he went on to, you know, at 12 years old, he tried out for the U.S. team, almost made it.
Wow, that's awesome.
He was standing next to Stonebreaker.
Okay, that's funny. That's
yeah.
Fun.
So it was kind of funny, you know. So and I can't remember all of them. Quite a few Olympians that we've had, and we've had some success in the Olympics with Jay Bars winning the gold and individual silver team, and then Debbie Oakes winning a bronze, and those were fun times, of course. And probably my most memorable, you know, was watching, you know, the last arrow go in the middle and it was over, you know.
Right.
Those are the fun times, you know.
Yeah, that's
and
awesome.
Then, you know, I worked with U.S. teams from 1981 to, I don't know, 1990 something. And my last with the team was in 92 when I did the Olympics. And the politics and the kids growing up and the business and everything, I just kind of got out of it and really didn't do anything until, I guess, 2008 was when I kind of got back into it.
Yeah.
There was a big time there that, but, you know, I didn't do any coaching. And I watched what happened to the U.S. program and how it declined and how we quit winning and all the rest of it. And, you know, when I was working with him and Tim Strickland, who was a really good coach, and he had the same philosophy, taught the same way. When he was there doing it, I mean, we had some really good shooters. But Denise Parker was his. All right. Yep. He worked with her, and she was our best shooter and held all the records, all of them, until Casey came along. Yeah. Literally. All right. They both are left-handed too.
Yeah. So, there's something about those lefties. I don't know.
I know, it's crazy. You know, Jay was left-handed. So it's crazy.
Well, Maggie that I coach is left-handed.
There you go. Yeah.
And so is Nola, so is Nola. She's a young lady. She just won nationals for her first time this year and broke the Bowman Barebow record. Someone with those lefties, I don't know.
Yeah, I know. I mean, look at Samantha Ensign. She's left-handed. She's
exactly. Yep.
Really good shooter. Shoots with Casey all the time.
Yep.
So the philosophy, you know, kind of changed over the years as you watch them shoot. And, you know, I get a kick out of when I first started working with Jay. He had moved from, he had gotten an ASU scholarship. He had been shooting for one of the junior colleges in Colorado. And I knew his dad, Jack Lyons and Dot. And I'd been up there hunting. I knew him from tournaments and stuff, but I'd never really met Jay until I went up there bear hunting and you know, got to meet him and watch him shoot a little bit. And I thought, got some talent, you know. And then when he got a scholarship at ASU, his dad called me up and said, "Hey, Jay just got approved for a scholarship down there. We're going to come to ASU." He says, "Can you work with him?" I says, "Sure." And I said, "Does he have a place to stay?" And he says, "No." And I said, "Well, he can stay here until he finds some place." So he actually lived with us about 6 months, you know, and came down that summer and we started working. And that was 1982, I want to say.
Okay.
Something like that. And, you know, and if you look at the statistics of how long it takes to get from your start point to the podium, you know, we kind of started this when I worked with the Canadian teams. A guy named Alan Brahms was doing this, it was called a gold medal profile. And what we were trying to do is figure out, all right, how long does it take? You've got the guy on the top of the podium. How
Sure.
old is he? How long does it take? What's his daily training environment? What kind of coaching does he get? I mean, the whole 9 yards. And so we interviewed coaches from around the world to figure this out.
Sure.
It usually takes 6 to 8 years. Okay.
Hmm.
And the guy at the top of the podium, average age 24.
Really?
Once you get past that, it goes downhill real quickly. It's
I
crazy.
bet. Yeah,
It is.
I bet you that's quite
Yeah.
the declining.
You have outliers, you have
Sure.
different, what's his name from Italy and all those. I mean, you have guys that can shoot at an older age and can keep up with them.
Yeah.
But Butch Johnson's another good one. Yeah.
He was on the tip of my tongue. Yeah, Butch Johnson.
5-time Olympian, and he could just kill it. He was one of the best we've ever had. But anyway, in going through this and working with Jay, he had the ability to shoot, but his body wasn't moving right. Okay, he was fighting what the natural motion would be.
Right.
And he's like, really, you want me to do this? And I said, yeah.
That sounds like Jay.
And I said, okay. He said, let's figure it out, Anyway, so we spent a lot of time, together learning how to shoot with, let the body move naturally.
Mhm.
Right. Consequently, when you do that, you have less injury, be less hurt, all the rest of it. Generally, injuries in archery are shoulder injuries. Okay.
Right.
All right. And that is caused by either not having your body in the right positions at full draw and or not knowing how to let down. And the worst part is with a compound.
Oh yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, because once you move it forward and it hits, I mean, it just tears up your right shoulder.
Right.
You have to learn to let down with both sides at the same time.
Right.
Otherwise you're going to get hurt. And you saw a lot of that when people that did not know how to use a clicker, and they struggle through it, then they can't get through it and they let down. And then they try it again, they let down. Pretty soon they've let down 3 or 4 or 5 times and it just tears up their shoulder. So
Yeah, that makes sense.
yeah. So it is not generally from shooting the arrow. It's generally from either letting down or having their shoulders in the wrong position when they're shooting. So that just, so anyway, where do we go from here?
Well, I think let's talk about that. Let's talk about how you've come to, what is it that you're teaching that is different? What are some of the things that you've seen with Casey, for example? I mean, you came into Casey and Connor Kaufhold at they were a young age, like what, 12 and 11? No, 12 and 10, 12 and 9, something. They were relatively young when Rob was just like, what are you doing different? What is the difference? And I've heard the story from you, but like, this is your opportunity, I guess, sort of to explain.
What happened there is that when I started back doing a little coaching, I was doing some advanced classes in the indoor range here. And, some of the kids are like, they wanted to have individual lessons. So I started working with them. And one of them was a kid named Jackson Mirish, who's one of our top 3 shooters right now, or moving up anyway. And the other one that I ran into was kind of weird. It was Gary Carter called me one day, Carter Release, and he says, my best friend's granddaughter wants to learn to shoot archery. Would you help her out? And I said, well, Jerry, yeah, I would. And says, well, she lives in the Phoenix area. I'll give her your number, or give her parents your number. It's all right. So they came over at the end of December. They gave her lessons with me for Christmas. Okay. So after Christmas, they came over and I got to meet her, and, Jay was in town and everything. And we started working a little bit. Well, the second time she came, which was like the first week in January, I watched her shoot, and I have pictures of it, and you can't believe how good it was. Right. So I started working with her, and, I always start people, the young ones like that, corner of the mouth.
Sure.
Right. Whether they have a sight or not, doesn't matter. But corner of the mouth, up close, teach them the motion.
Yep. Yep.
And it's funny, if you put them in the right position, you say, let go, they already have the motion.
Yeah.
Because it's natural. Okay.
Right.
If they start themselves and they get in the wrong place, they don't have the motion. So it's all about the motion of the body. Right. And I have really good videos and documentation from every part of her training all the way through. And we got to about a year, and I says, look, if you can shoot a 285 at the 60 centimeter face indoors, she was like 12, right? Then I'll sign you up for Vegas. We shot a 288.
Nice.
After less than 1 year of shooting, right? So I took her to Vegas, and Jackson also, and she shot in the same division with Casey. There was 89 girls in that division, and she won it. And Casey was fourth.
Yeah.
She did not like that. Now, I've known Rob since he was a teenager.
I know you have, yeah.
Right. So Jackson, who was the other kid I brought up there, he was in Connor's division. And he shot like a 292 and 297 and won that division. And we were standing there watching. Rob looked at me, he says, that kid ever miss? And I says, not often. And he says, all right, you need to come and do a seminar for me at Lancaster.
Sure.
I said, well, I haven't done anything like that since I worked with the teams back in the 80s,
Yeah.
But I'll put something together. Okay. So that's kind of all that had all started. And my wife and I went and did the first seminar in May of 2016.
Oh,
So
wow.
Not that long ago, right? Yeah. And it took them 3 months to get 20 people in the seminar. All right. And Casey was in there, and so was Connor. And once I got done working with them, and then at the hunting camp a few months later, I started working with Heather.
Yep.
To show her how things worked. And she was an RA, good shooter.
Yep.
Okay.
So, for everyone that's for the people watching and those who end up listening, Dick is referring to Heather File, who is the head coach for Lancaster Archery Academy. She is Casey's full-time in-house coach there. With Brian Brady, who also is pretty well versed in. I don't know if you've ever worked with Brian directly, but I know Brian is 100% behind what you teach and coach. And Heather is with Casey every step of the way, especially when Dick isn't available. Depending on what's going on.
And we spend a lot of time, either talking or texting or whatever. I just, one of the things that I do at tournaments is, I don't always, there's not a lot of coaching goes on. I mean, there's some, but you're observing.
Yeah.
And you're trying
let's highlight that real quick. I don't mean to interrupt. Coaches, there's not a lot of coaching going on in that situation. And that's something I learned in other sports, but especially in archery. If you're a coach and you're hovering over your shooter, same for parents, please understand, like they're at that 100% capacity effort. They need to be focusing on what they're focusing on, not what you're doing and saying out of the mix. Exactly. Anyways, continue. Go ahead. Sorry. Little rant. That's a little rant. That's like a pet peeve of mine, but
yeah. And I see it all the time. When you work with somebody in practice, right, and you're working with them, they can stand there and practice and shoot lights out. Like they say, anybody can be a scratch golfer on the driving range.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
But when you go out and and shoot in a tournament, right, things change. Your body changes, your thought patterns change, everything changes. And when you're coaching somebody, you can learn a whole bunch more by watching them in a tournament and let them make those mistakes.
Oh, God, say it again.
Trust me, it's a long way from the Olympic trials. Most of these tournaments you go to, it's not that big a deal, right? There's lots of tournaments, right? And if you can see the mistakes they make, it's easier to fix them the next time you work with them. Okay. And you talk with them after a tournament and recount and everything that they went through and what do you think of this, and and ask them the right questions, and pretty soon they know exactly what to work on. Okay. I just watched Casey a lot last weekend at the Arizona Cup, and she was making some big mistakes. And so I, even though she was kicking everybody's butt, she has an ongoing problem. And I mentioned it to her before the last end. I says, eventually we're going to have to fix this. She says, yeah, I know. I said, well, yeah. And so she went up there and did it correctly in the last end and finished with a 58. Right.
Awesome.
So then I forwarded all the information to Heather, saying, all right, here's what has to happen. All right. Today I got a text from Heather that showed a target and the score of what she shot at 70 meter standing on a Bosa ball.
Oh my gosh. I don't even want to know. I do want to know, but I don't want to know because I know where this is going. Go ahead.
It was over 330.
So, and to explain to everyone a little bit too, first of all, if you get a chance to take Dick's seminar, do it. There are repeatedly at Lancaster Archery Academy. If there's an archery seminar that is worth taking, it is that one. 1, 2, during the seminar, we were made to shoot on Bosa balls, as well as the small balance balls that go under each foot.
Yeah, the discs.
Yeah, the discs, which I have at my range. You do not have the Bosa ball, but I do have a dozen of the discs at my range. And it is definitely something that's worth trying and worth adopting into your training. So, all right. So continue. Oh, is this the picture? You'll have to you'll have to text that to me so I can put it in the actual recorded podcast. That's impressive.
Yeah, it was
70
impressive.
meters on a Bosa ball.
70 meters. Yep. She's got just a few in the 8 ring. All the rest are 9s and 10s, 332 or 3, something like that.
So, I mean, not that this was part of the planned discussion, but what is, I know what it is, but can you explain why you use the Bosa ball so much and what's the goal there?
Well,
from your standpoint as a coach?
Sure, well, the Bosa ball, first of all, is something that will give you better balance.
Right. Balance
is so key in how the body works. If you're out of balance, you're going to use muscles to keep from falling over. Okay. And if you're shooting and you're out of balance, you're going to use muscles you don't need, and that's going to interfere with your shot. So it's that simple, right? Now, the first time I saw somebody shooting on these little discs, these balanced discs, I was the guy hitting golf balls off them.
Yep, I've seen that before. Okay.
Yeah, and he was not missing. I mean, it was unbelievable. I'm thinking, damn, wonder if we can do that with a bow, So I got some of those and messed with it. But the Bosa ball is better because it's got a big flat surface on top.
Right.
And it's round on the bottom, and you can make it as stiff on the bottom, round as you want, or less if you're just learning how to do it. The great practice is you stand on that, right, and you use a stretch band to perform your shot. Sure. And it's amazing how all the little muscles in your legs and everything are used, and when you get off it, you feel like you're just planted on the ground. You're like you can't move, right?
Yeah.
In her case, I was watching her at Lancaster and then Vegas, and she was kind of leaning forward and more than she should, and it would get her. She would get in her arms, not on every shot, but a lot of times, And then she would struggle getting through the clicker. And when she leaned forward, all right, to keep from falling over, she'd bend her knees.
Really?
Okay, well, think
Interesting.
about it. You have to do
Yeah.
some compensation, right? All right. So now we lost our base, right? And we're all off balance, right? So, we started right then after that to get back on the Bosa ball and shoot. And she was doing that indoors. But this is the first time Heather had her do it outdoors. I thought that was pretty cool. Yeah.
Absolutely. So you're implementing that to not just for balance, for general balance,
Yeah,
but
posture and balance.
posture and balance. So you're forced to stay on the Bosa ball and shoot an arrow to the highest level. You're forced to be in a more vertical, more stable position.
Yeah. Your balance is controlled by your head position.
Right.
Okay. Wherever
Right.
your head is, I don't care what sport it is, as long as
Absolutely.
it's an upright sport. All right. Whether you're running or hitting a golf ball or whatever you're doing, tennis ball or ping pong, doesn't matter. Your head determines your balance. Okay.
Yep. Absolutely.
Your head position. So it's the heaviest part of your body, and you're holding it up and balancing it all day long. That's what you do.
Yeah.
Right? So, we start in our seminars and everything, but that's the first thing we start with is balance. All right. And the head is related to your posture, and that's related to your base, your feet, and how your feet are. Okay. If you're going to lift weights, you have to have your feet in the right position to lift that weight. Right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
It's the same with this. All right. So if you get your feet in the right position and you get your torso in the right position, your head over your torso, the rest of your body is relaxed. Okay. And then you can perform the shot. Okay.
Yeah.
So
makes complete sense.
That's the first thing we do is balance. And you were in the seminar, that. Yep. Right. Everybody had to shoot on those little discs or a Bosa ball or something. And
I was the first person to do it, if you remember. It actually didn't go too bad. I think even you were a little surprised, but it's so awkward and uncomfortable. Yeah. So there's no question that it wasn't great. And it forces you to have to be in a better position to make the shot work and to do it properly.
Yep.
And I probably don't do it enough, to be honest with you, Dick. I probably don't.
No.
I know I don't. I know for a fact that I don't. So,
and as you get older, everybody's the same. You lose your balance, your ability to balance.
Not the only thing you lose.
You hear about old people falling down all the time.
Okay? Sure, absolutely.
They lost their ability to balance. Right. And if you remember, I showed in the clinic this old guy standing on a Bosa ball. Right.
Yeah.
And he would stand on one leg and then he'd stand on the other leg, and he was like 89 years old. That was Dave Kagi.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
The guy that wrote the book, right? So, I mean, if you keep up with it, you can maintain your balance. But as you get older and you see, people out there in the Masters division or older people, anybody older than 24, really, you're going to start losing your balance. You just are. And so working on a Bosa ball or get your balance disc or something like that. They have these boards you can stand on too. The other things with a disc on the bottom. I like the Bosa ball because it's a bigger base. They have different sizes. We get the biggest one, and then you can change the amount of air you put in it to make it easier or harder. Okay.
Sure.
So yeah, it's perfect for archery. So not so good for golf, but perfect for archery.
Yeah. So, and just to kind of continue down part of this natural shot cycle and the things that you do to train, there's a specific thing that I've seen Heather do with Casey, and it's really involves her draw cycle. Right. And a specific pattern with her draw cycle. Mm-hmm. Can you explain what that is and why it's such a focal point?
Well, yeah, that's a pretty, matter of fact, I thought it was pretty cool that when we had the
COVID.
going
Yeah.
on, you know, and we had the barriers between each person, the plexiglass. And Heather was working with Casey one day and she wrote on the thing and could show that cycle, which I have. I can send that to you if you like.
Yeah, that would be great. And I'll put it right now in the podcast so people can see it.
Let me find it here and I'll send it
Oh,
to
I might
you.
even be able to share it. If you text it to me, I might be able to make it work that we can like interactive throw it up there. But you can kind of
Actually,
continue explaining what that focus was there. All right.
There you got it.
All right, everybody. Thank you for bearing with us. You know, technology and stuff. So this is what I was talking about. This is during COVID. This is Lancaster Archery Academy at Lancaster Archery Supply, one of our sponsors, shameless plug. And this is obviously the wonderful Casey Kaufhold. And they had these barriers up. So between Coach Heather and Casey is a barrier with a plexiglass window. I'm pretty sure that these are probably nearby all the time at Lancaster now for this exact purpose. So I'm going to play this through, Dick, and then why don't you talk about what was happening here?
Okay, what this shows the direction and of her draw hand as she comes into anchor. Everybody thinks you pull straight back,
Yeah.
but if you notice, her hand goes up and down, right?
Yep. Yeah.
First thing you notice. The other thing you notice is her draw elbow always stays above the arrow. All right?
And what's the significance of that?
That allows your scapula to move around towards the spine, and it puts you in a position of strength in your back. So if you do that, if you just, anybody that's watching, you just make that motion with your arm, you can feel your scapula moving around.
Yep.
And that's a natural motion that you would make if you were going to try and start the lawnmower or anything like that. I mean, that's what the body would do to move an object like that.
Right.
Now, the other side, the hands move together. We don't want the hands to do the same thing. All right.
Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. Because what happens if you have one hand doing one thing and one hand doing the other, right? They're not in concert with each other. It's very hard to perform a shot. Okay. So if you play the second video, it just shows you the movement of the hands.
Okay. I'll pull that one up right now.
With the bow hand.
Yep. Let me pull that one up right now.
There's also a line on the plexiglass there, and you can see how the hand moves up that line, and as it comes down, it moves slightly forward. See that?
Sure.
All
Sure.
right.
And kind of elaborate on that, Dick.
All right. So that hand is moving. It's the same height and the same time as her draw hand. And what happens is as you draw the bow, your shoulders naturally move around to brace it, because again, as you pull it, the bow is putting force against you. And in order to get the full draw, you actually naturally will move your shoulders around to a parallel position with the arrow to brace the bow. Okay.
Yep.
And when you go up to load your back and come down, you also have a little bit of leverage coming down. So you have the leverage with your shoulders moving, and you have the leverage coming down at the same time.
Very interesting.
So you have leverage going both directions.
Okay.
Now, if you play the other one, it shows the whole thing. Okay.
All right. So here's the full shot right here.
There you go.
Yep.
That's it. And you notice both hands move at the same time, and they're coming down at the same time. So when she gets into anchor, her bow hand and everything is everything at the right level.
Sure.
So she can pick up the target quicker and continue her motion and move right through the clicker.
Yeah. And that's been a thing that I have talked about. I actually started that discussion before I took your seminar, but taking your seminar solidified it a little bit. Is that same principle of keeping that same tension sort of on both sides of the body, having that movement be in unison, and not having like a draw hand that flies way out here, and then like basically the principle of grabbing your bow or having they're going to want to work in together and follow that same pattern. And that's cool that's something that you're applying in Olympic recurve as well, which makes complete sense.
Right. And the other thing you notice is that she is not, once she lets go, she's not trying to control anything.
Sure. Yep.
The first motion of the bow is back towards the hand, right? And it does not start forward until that arrow's long gone.
I wish I could slow motion this right now, but I can pause and play and pause it.
Frame at a time like that, and you'll see that the arrow is long gone before anything starts moving forward.
So let's see here. There's there. Clickers, all right, clickers off. Frame by frame. Well, the frame skipped, but it's showing the bow going forward.
Yeah, it's going forward, but it hasn't done anything other than move towards a target, which is what we want.
Right.
But the first motion after the arrow's left is that the pressure from the body reacting to the bow is down that line of force.
Right.
And it will go straight towards the target or straight down that line.
Yep.
And then your triangles close up, and the gravity takes effect on the bow, and the arm just follows it down and to the right.
Right.
And
so I'm sorry, Dick, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, so, and we talked about this a little bit. You're going to have a little bit of, you're not going to have a little bit, it's going to be a lot of a change. The dynamics of a barebow, where you don't have the stabilizers, you don't have the sight, that movement's going to change a little bit, because you don't have that big explosion with the bow swinging out and down. The physics is the same, but because of the way the bow's set up, it's not going to have the same movement.
Well, you have all your weight at the bottom, which causes the bottom of the bow to kick out. But it's still, if you're using a bow sling, it's still affected by gravity.
Right.
It wants to go down, right? And the shot for the body hasn't changed a bit. Okay.
Right.
So what the body does and everything. And when you shoot it, well, who was it? Jack Williams. They had him shoot at the indoor nationals, at the indoor finals. He shot some barebow. Somebody was showing him how to do it.
Yeah, it was me and John Demmer.
Right. He did pretty good, didn't he?
Yeah, he did good. Yeah, he did good. He would, I think anybody that's got some elite level training, because their shot is going to be so repeatable and they're so committed to the same mental pattern, they're going to be okay. I don't think they're going to blow the doors off of a score or anything like that. At least not in the beginning, because there's still an adjustment to it.
Yeah. You learn how to do it.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely in my opinion, there's definitely there's a conscious mind, a state of conscious mind that you need to be into a little bit longer in barebow in comparison to Olympic, just because that clicker really does help a lot. But there's other ways that you can do that with string blur and other mental processes, the way you can think about it and stuff like that. So, but it wouldn't take somebody well, Justin Hewish shot my bow at Lancaster. I mean, it looked like he'd been doing it for years. And there's no question that somebody, but their mental process, Casey, Jack William, Justin, I'm sure, they're so into their shot. And I think that's one of the things that a lot of barebow archers miss out on, is that they worry. I mean, we all have target panic to a capacity, but they worry about, a lot of times they're worrying about just the wrong stuff.
Yep.
And to try to drive home that message of, and sometimes I think it's just a lack of confidence in everything from the way they tune their bow to the amount of practice that they did. It's just, there's such a lack of of confidence and all of those things. And ultimately they don't realize like how much of a negative impact that has when it comes to the moment of truth, when you have to put it all, to the test.
Yep.
And we talked about that a little bit during your seminar, with the way you talk about like the mental game. You talked about like, get your affairs in order, like do that stuff. Like that's something that I adopted into my seminars. I call it the building blocks of the mental game. But that was one of the things I kind of like adopted into my mental game discussion, was saying like, you want to have the utmost confidence in what you're doing. Well, you explain it. You explain like those things, like what you've done with Casey with the Olympic trials, and about the whole idea, get your affairs in order, all that other stuff. Talk about it.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've had, several people come to me and say, I want to do this or want to do that. And one of the fun ones was Debbie Oakes. But she came to me and she wanted to make the Olympic team. And she was going to ASU. And she was a good shooter, one of the best we had in the country. But, she wasn't good enough to make the team, right? And I said, so what are you willing to do? She says, just about anything. And I said, okay. So I took a yellow pad of paper and wrote down a list of things that she's going to have to do. And the first one thing on the list was quit school. And she read that and she says, I don't think my parents are going to allow me to do that. And I said, well, Debbie, I know you and I know how you are. And it's hard for you to think of more than a couple things at once in your life. And I says, one of them is going to be guys. Because you're a good looking young lady, right?
Sure.
And the other one has to be archery, right? So if you have other things going on, like college, like all the things that would distract you, all right, it's not going to happen. So make up your mind. And she came back about 3 days later. She says, I'm going to quit college. I'm going to do this. And she made that team and she won a bronze medal in the team round.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Which I thought was, there was some interesting things happen in that. Melanie Skillman, who was on that team with Denise and Debbie, during the final deals, they were shooting for the silver medal, and she missed an arrow, and which happens,
Sure.
And they ended up winning bronze. And Denise is a 14-year-old girl in the Olympics, right? It was a big deal. And when she walked off the field, here's a reporter stuck a mic in her face and says, what do you think about, the most experienced and oldest girl on your team or lady on your team missing an arrow, costing you the silver medal? What do you think she said?
I've heard this story, but go ahead.
Yeah.
You told me this story.
She said, you can't think of it that way.
Yep.
This is how mentally straight she was. She says, you got to think of all the good arrows that she shot to get us there in the first place.
Yeah.
And just put that reporter right down, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, she was ready. She worked with Tim Strickland and he had her ready to shoot. And she did. She was unbelievable, right? So it's things like that. And if you have things going on in your life, you have a bill that's past due, or you got health problems, or you're going to school, or you're having problems with your wife or your girlfriend or both. It could be anything like that. You're never going to shoot to the best you can do. You shoot okay, but not the best. Right?
I completely agree. I'm not.
Your subconscious knows.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
The subconscious is what shoots the arrow when you're doing it right.
Yep.
Right. Your conscious mind can only think of one thing at a time.
Yep.
Your subconscious can think of a million things at once.
Yep.
All right. Just like right now, you and I have been sitting here talking, blinking our eyes and breathing. And that's all subconscious. Right.
Yeah, I will say that, and Grayson is definitely Grayson Partlow. I don't know if you've met Grayson or know of Grayson. Grayson,
yes.
Yeah, he definitely shoots. Like if there's anyone I know that shoots almost in the conscious mind all the way through, it's Grayson. However, Grayson will admit like his release isn't the best, and he admits it. And I think it's because he is like that's the way he started from, like, not the beginning, but damn near close. And he stays in that conscious mind, like literally right up. And I always call it the switch, where you turn the switch from conscious to subconscious. In my opinion, in Barebow, that switch has to come later than in Olympic Recurve. Like you have to stay in a little bit longer, because you have to let that aim happen. And in Barebow, 90%, 95%, I don't know what the percentage is, like people don't let the aim happen because the panic gets them, and they want to get, and that panic is like the subconscious is, oh, it's in the middle, gotta go. And then it becomes, well, it gets close to the middle and it's gotta go. And they're thinking about the wrong things, or not thinking about them at all. But like Grayson, of anyone I know, he's probably the closest to staying all the way to the end. But he also admits, like, there's times where, like, my release isn't great and I get some flyers, and I don't know if that's necessarily why, but he's one of few people that can make it work.
I can tell you that we shot for years and years and years without clickers.
Yeah, okay. Go ahead, talk about that. That's a good discussion to have, because
we had the same problems that a Barebow person has. Barebow person is aiming with the point of the arrow. We have a target sight, but we had to pull back to the same place.
Right.
We had to hold that point at the same place. You couldn't creep forward or pull back further or whatever, because it affected where it went. And when you're standing there shooting 90 meters, if it moves just a 16th,
oh yeah,
all over the place. All right. And so we learned to get to a certain point, and then, and we wanted that shot to be a surprise. Okay. We didn't want it to be a physical, I'm going to let go of the string now. Okay.
Sure.
We wanted to make our mind up of, okay, the wind's blowing, right to left. I'm going to aim here, and this is where I'm going to do it. And you'd come to full draw, and when it was right, the shot went off. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We didn't consciously say, okay, now let go. No, it was a subconscious thing.
Sure.
Okay?
Yep.
And I don't care if you shoot a clicker or not a clicker. It's hard to do. Okay.
Yeah.
And it's difficult to do Barebow. So recently I was working, this is not too long ago, I mean a month or so, a couple months ago, I was working with one of my shooters out at an outdoor range, and he was, he hadn't been shooting a lot outdoors, but he's still a good shooter, right? And I couldn't understand why he wasn't shooting groups. I mean, this guy is he can shoot 330s, he's a 660 type shooter, and he's like got him going everywhere. And I go, what's going on? He says, I haven't been shooting outdoors. I said, yeah, no, that's not it. And we were walking back from the target, and I noticed he had an earphone in his head.
Yeah, earbud.
What are you listening to? Music? And he says, well, I'm not listening to it when I'm shooting. And I said, no, what do you listen to? He says, I'm listening to a podcast. And I said, oh, okay. So we get back to the shooting line, and he got all ready to go. And I says, put both of your earphones in. He says, what? Put both of them in. All right. And I says, now turn that podcast on and pay attention to it. He says, okay. And I said, just shoot. Every arrow was in the gold. We get down to the target, and he says, is this legal?
No.
Not when you're on the line. Not when you're on the line, but it's a training aid.
Sure.
It teaches your mind how to use your subconscious.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
And we say in our seminar, and I still profess to this, is that you anchor your shot with one conscious thought. So now you have your conscious mind involved with one thing. This is all they can think of, right?
Sure. Right.
And let the subconscious shoot the arrow. Now, what happens with people is they get their conscious mind going in what I call a chain. So you're thinking about, okay, I got to get a good release. Is my bow hand relaxed? Is my doing this right? Is my point where it belongs? Am I doing? And pretty soon they have 5 or 6 things going, one right after another in their conscious mind, right? And their subconscious can't operate. That's when you get those bad shots, right?
Yep.
So, and I've tried this podcast thing with several of my people, right?
Yeah.
And without question, every one of them is like, is this legal? Because what they're doing is they're paying attention to pod. It also works with an audio book. It does not work with music. Music is something that becomes background. It doesn't occupy your conscious mind.
Right.
Okay. But it works with anything that you have to pay attention to. Okay. I'm listening to a podcast. I want to hear George Tekmachov or whoever, or Frank or whoever.
Yeah.
And I'm listening to this. I want to hear what people say. But I'm shooting. You already know how to shoot. It does not work for somebody who's working on all their form and everything.
Sure.
That's obvious. But if you're a good shooter, you're having some mental problems and you're not being able to perform like you can do in practice, right? This will train your mind to do it subconsciously. And it's fun. It's just crazy.
I think it makes sense. Yeah, 100%. I think it definitely makes sense. You know, and you're right. People do, you know, you try to teach people to have confidence in those things, like, you know, make sure you're setting your hook the same every time, setting your grip the same every time. But people sometimes have a difficult time moving on from that task. And, you know, and I guess that's where that subconscious that subconscious comes in. You just have to know the feel of it too. Well, you know, you have to understand what the feel is and be confident in that feel.
Well, it's muscle memory.
Yeah.
Simple. All right. You go through the process of shooting arrow after arrow after arrow, and you build up muscle memory. And the funniest thing is, the first article I ever remember writing for a magazine was called "Practicing the Bad Shots." Now this is late 70s, early 80s, or something like that. And what it involved around was, you know, basically, if you want to learn or progress quickly, all right, you see somebody that's going to practice. They go out to 70 meters and 90 meters, they throw up a target and they go back, pick up their bow, set their sight, start shooting. Okay. What percentage of your arrows are perfect? Form wise, not target wise. What percentage do you think there are, Frank?
Oh, percentage. Repeat that question one more time. What percentage are what?
Perfect. I mean, you go back there.
Perfect. Oh, geez.
Pretty small.
Yeah, I'm gonna say 10%, maybe.
That's about right. Okay?
Yeah.
All right. So, you know, what we're doing is standing there practicing bad shots.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because only 10% of the time are good. So that's when I come up with saying, well, if you go up and shoot blank bale and close your eyes, right? Now, what percentage of your shots are good?
Yeah, 100%, almost, if not damn near close. You're preaching to the choir on that one, Dick. I say the whole time, but keep going.
But anyway, so if you really want to improve your shooting quicker, build your muscle memory, all right, you do it that way.
Yeah.
And once you get that down to where you are confident in your form and your equipment and everything else, and you've progressed up the ladder to where you know your shot, that's when this podcast thing will work.
Yeah, I agree.
You're not thinking about your bow hand or all the rest of that stuff, right? Everything else is there. All right. Now you're just training your mind to turn off the conscious and work on the subconscious.
Yeah. So I've always said, and I say it in my seminars, and I actually said it on the podcast with Matt Zernzak on the Push. I talked about like maximizing your training per se with shooting drills like that. You know, and there's some people who say like shooting drills don't help with target panic, but they might not help directly with target panic, but they help with the shot process so much. You know, if I want to shoot 500 arrows before this tournament, you know, I'm just using a number. Well, if I shoot 500 arrows and 10% of those arrows are actually good, that's not really good training. But if I take that 500 and 50% of those arrows are blind bale and 100% of those blind bale are good, that's 250 on a scale of 1 to 10. That's 250 really good arrows, which is better. You know what I mean?
Actually, it's blank bale.
Or, well, blank bale, blind bale. Blank bale is, and a lot of people get bored with blank bale. You know, that idea of and I'm like, you don't understand. Like there's an amazing carryover there. Do it anyway.
So the first time that I really watched this work on somebody, it was this girl, Terry Pesho, that I started when she was 8.
Yeah.
When she was 18 or 19, she hadn't shot in 3 or 4 months. And she says, I think I'm going to go to shoot the nationals. And I says, Terry, you haven't been shooting. You haven't been practicing. She says, but I'm going to go anyway. That's because she was Jay Barr's boyfriend or girlfriend at the time, and Jay was going, okay.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Anyway, I says, all right, here's what I want you to do. I want you to shoot blank bale. Nothing but blank bale. I want you to shoot as many arrows as you can every day, 100 arrows or 200 or whatever, blank bale. She said, what about my sight settings? I said, you can get sight settings when you get there. I said, I just want you to work on your form, shoot blank bale. She says, all right. So, she did exactly what I said, went to the nationals, got her sight settings, and beat everybody.
I believe it. I listen, again, preaching to the choir on that one. Like blank bale to me is one of the blank bale and blind bale. So I delineate between the two: blind, eyes closed, blank, no target. That's the way I describe it. But
and if you go to a World Cup, or World Championships, or any of that stuff, right? They've always got bale set up so people can practice blank bale.
Do they really?
Oh yeah. And if you go there, you'll see every European team in there in the mornings and the afternoons. Warm up, warm down. Okay.
Yeah.
And I tell my people that if you shoot in the wind and you go through a windy day like you would do at Ben Avery or one of these places, the first thing you do is go over and shoot blank bale, get your form back before you even take your bow down. All right. Yeah. Because it can mess you up. All right. But you go to any one of those tournaments and you'll find that's exactly what they're doing.
Yeah. I again, it's something I grew up with. And then working with Larry Wise through some stuff. Larry's a huge advocate of it. I know you are, and it's one of those things that with all of the kids that I teach, as much as they can't stand it, I implement it. Now there's a philosophy the way I implement it, but it's again, just like we talked about, it's an easy way to shoot high quality arrows.
It is. It builds muscle memory quickly.
Yeah. And before the night before every tournament, if I have the ability to do it, and even the day of, if I have the ability, I am shooting one or both of those the night before. The last thing I want to do is shoot as many perfect arrows as I can without wearing myself out and saving energy for the next day. Yeah. So, but that's such a great little nugget of this discussion, because the people don't do it enough, especially in Barebow. Like Barebow, I love Barebow, but sometimes we're just the community is almost a little too laissez-faire about, we're just having fun, we're shooting archery. And then, there was a little bit of a discussion about that in the Facebook group the other day. But we try to say to people, like, you can still be super, and Demmer and Grayson and many others, you could be super competitive. It's not that you necessarily, like, for you to wait to get as good as those people by just shooting arrows, you're going to wait a long freaking time. If you want to expedite that journey, you need to get your ass to blank bale and practice and shoot as many high quality shots as you can. And you can't just stand on the shooting line and try to fix it. You have to do other things to help build that callus and become that.
Otherwise, you're practicing bad shots.
You're right. So, I named this episode the wrong name. I should have named it that. Practicing bad shots. Maybe we may end up doing a part 3. I don't know, Dick. This conversation's going pretty good. We might have to do.
I'll have to send you that article.
Yeah, send that to me, and maybe we'll we'll see what kind of feedback we get from this podcast. We've been going at it for a while now, so I think we're going to kind of slowly dive out of this one. But I could see us definitely recording another one. Maybe I'll do some videos demonstrating, giving you credit, obviously, on like the balance balls and explain to people what they are and show them. And I've done videos before with them, but I haven't done them in a while. And I'm glad I'm having this conversation because I'm like, you know what I'm going to do tomorrow? Like, that's what I'm going to do. So, but we'll go from there. And I think just like all of having those videos with Casey, that just made this even better. Being able to see that and have that discussion and talk about like that natural, not just the natural shot cycle, but the natural finish too, which is something that I talk about, but I don't know if it's ever been explained in that way. And I just think it was, it's a great approach.
I think I told you I worked a little bit with Chrissy Lyons.
Yeah, right before Arizona Cup. She's a brave soul. I don't know if I worked with her too a little bit back in right before she came to PA. I think it was right before Nationals last year. But yeah, she's not afraid to try a new thing or she's very open-minded about what she's doing. And, and she shot well. She shot well at Arizona Cup. I know she's capable of more, but she definitely shot well. So yeah, she's a good egg.
Interesting to see see her face when she actually, pulled the bow correctly and shot it correctly. And it was completely different. It's like, oh, this is different.
Oh, it definitely is. Yeah. Well, I mean, I told you when I took your seminar, remember when I talked about how much pain I was in?
Yeah.
And that had all started literally like 2 weeks after taking my level 4. And I'm not talking down on NTS, please, for you people who listen to this. No, that's not what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is that I'm a big dude. I think mobility may have played a role in it, but the idea of that coiling really left a mark in my ability to utilize the coiling aspect of NTS. And I think a lot of adult archers probably have the same issue because NTS is definitely works better, in my opinion, for like a younger, more agile person. I don't know how else to say that. For me, it didn't work. And that's one of the major reasons why, because you take an older shooter, you take someone that's maybe doesn't have the years of all of that motion happening. Because NTS, full on NTS was complete change for me. Yeah. And it felt great at full draw, but it just, I had a hard time making it repeatable. And then I developed pain from that coiling action. Like, I mean, I'm talking like to the T, what coiling looks like is what I was doing. And then we talked about my draw cycle and worked with you, and within 12 arrows, the pain was gone. Yeah. And then eventually it came back, but I think that was a long-standing, I kind of went back to my old form a little bit, and I ended up having to just give it a rest and drop weight and do what I should have done the first time. But I couldn't believe it. I was like, wow, how does it go away that fast? So, but it works. It works. There's no question about that. So
we still got to have a session of getting you.
Yeah, well, I have to get you when you come, if you come to Pennsylvania, because
it looks like we're going to try and do a seminar first part of
October.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I don't want to wait till then. You're not coming for nationals?
Oh, I'll be there for that. Yeah,
well, maybe
yeah.
Are you gonna just come in for nationals and then bounce and go back?
I'm not sure. That's a long time away.
What's that?
That's a long time away.
I didn't know if you were gonna come to Lancaster first.
Well, I might.
Okay,
I might. Yeah.
Because I know there's been discussion about doing a 50-meter barebow seminar. Heather asked us to do a barebow seminar at Lancaster. And if we did it, it would probably be like, we try to set them up like the week before a big tournament. So if people are coming to Pennsylvania for nationals, they can come in early, go to the seminar, then go to nationals. We do that. You know, we're doing our seminar in California the week before SoCal. You know what I mean? So, but you know, so maybe if you come in then we can chat about some of that, and maybe get together and do a session.
And I might get up there some other time before that too.
If you do, I mean, obviously we text actually pretty frequently. Just shoot me a message and let me know, and we'll go that route. But you know, and I think that's another thing that gets me. We're talking about about the idea, like, you have all of those other things going on. When I first started Barebow, like I came out like a tear. Within a year, I was shooting like 530, 540 indoor scores. Within 2 years, I was consistently, practice scores were 540, 550 even in practice indoors. But then the podcast started. And while in the beginning, it was just very like, the podcast was not as organized and whatever. But then as life started to occur, and then you start coaching more athletes, and then you start doing more podcasts, and then you have a brick and mortar, and then a job and a family. And I started, and I had this conversation with Grayson and John often, like, those things pull a piece of your attention all of the time. And it is very hard to shoot at the top of your game when you are in that type of a position.
Sure.
And that is probably the most difficult thing for me to deal with, because I still have a competitor's mindset.
But you have so much going on in your subconscious that you can't.
Oh my gosh, it's great. Grayson says it to me all the time. He's like, dude, I don't know how you do it. And frankly, sometimes things suffer because of it. If it's not my shooting, it's something else. It depends on where my focus goes. But it is so hard. And so for the rest of you out there, like, understand, like, if you have other things going on in your life, and the only reason I'm emphasizing this is because I'm saying it so you don't let it happen to you. If you own a business, if you have family stuff going on, if you are thinking about starting a vlog or a podcast even, or whatever, like, understand that those things will always weigh on you if you're still trying to be a competitor. Have your mind in the right spot.
It'll affect your shot for sure. And that's the first thing. Get your life together.
Yeah, it's so hard. It's so hard. But Dick, thank you so much for being a guest for the second time. I'm guessing we're gonna definitely do a third. I foresee a third coming. I don't know what it's gonna be about yet, but it was just, every time I do a podcast with you, man, it's just so much fun. And there's just so much positive information, good information, things that you have a very a professional way to explain to people what they need to hear, and I appreciate that. So for those of you out there, we had our friend Justin Hewish was watching. Joe McGlynn must have been listening. He commented, good. Joe, I just want to give you a shout out, man. Excellent shooting to make it to the indoor finals. I shot against Joe in the past, and he's such a good dude, and I'm so happy to see him still doing so well. He's been in the sport for so long. You people need to get up and see him in New York City. That guy at Proline, he's an all right dude. Check him out. And a couple others. We got a couple of people. We got Ash Dave. She's on. Her daughter Amelia comes over for the classic. I don't know if I might have introduced you guys. I don't remember if I did or not. They came over from the UK to the classic, and some other people, some regulars, but no questions or anything like that. Just everybody was watching and listening. So
Jay and I did about an hour and a half at the classic, kind of going through some stuff, and that seemed to go over pretty good. I see a lot of people afterwards that were there that I don't remember.
Oh, did you guys do a seminar?
Yeah, just an hour and a half. It's really hard to shove everything into an hour and a
Yeah,
half.
John and I did one on Target Panic, and it
Yeah.
was, yeah, you're right. Well, I mean, they're free seminars for people to attend. So you're not going to get it. It's so hard to put so much into such a little bit of time. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But we do our best,
Yep.
Your seminar is worth taking though. So for those of you out there, if you decide to come for Dick's next seminar, I don't know, maybe I'll come down and, maybe we can chat in October. If you do one in October, if you do one before, maybe we can add we can talk some Barebow with it and go from there. But
I will tell you that they fill up quickly.
they do. Yes.
The second seminar, the first one took 3 months. The second seminar took 12 minutes to fill it for 32 people.
Yeah, I signed up when I think Rob texted me. It was like seminar open back up. I was like, save me a spot. And then because I couldn't register right away. And but it worked out. I was able to get registered right away and take it. And it's money well spent. And honestly, when you have people like yourself just essentially just giving out information like in this podcast and willing to talk to people, and I don't mind spending the money at all for archery education. It doesn't matter who it is in some regards. If it's someone like in your at your status and the amount of years in the sport, like that's what I appreciate. That's where I'm just like, you've been in the sport and for a long time, even though you had a little hiatus, and then to come back as a coach and to do the things that you're doing and still continuing and flourishing, I think it's amazing. So people check out those seminars for sure. Are you going to do another one on the West Coast or no?
Not this year, I don't think, unless it's later in the year. We don't know. We did that one in Salt Lake and it was really good. We had 42 people in that one. Way too much, but we need to do another one out here for sure.
Well, maybe we need to maybe you need to do a coaching certification, Dick. What do you think?
Yeah, we might do that. So
well, let's talk about that. I want to talk about that off camera. We'll talk about that. All right. All right, man. Well, thank you so much. Good night, everyone. Thank you for logging in, checking us out. And this podcast recording is over. See you, Dick. Have a good night. Enjoy the rest of the Masters.
Talk to you later.
See ya.